Are you ready?
Hey everyone, welcome to The Art of Comics. It's me, Andres Salazar. I am a comic book writer, artist, creator, all that jazz. Working on a new film project called Courtside, and you can check all that out on my Patreon. This channel, The Art of Comics, we're going to do a deep dive look at the art of comics, the intersection between words and pictures, sequential art form, four-color glory, and we're going to talk today about Thor. Yep, as the title of the video suggests, we're going to talk about Thor by Jason Aaron, Esad Rubik, Ron Garney, and others. Specifically, this storyline called Gore the God Butcher. And let's go ahead and turn the camera over in a moment. Before we do that, I just want to talk a little bit about the story. I'm not a huge Thor guy, so to speak. I'm not really big into superhero comics, to be honest. I was when I was a kid, but as you get older and you start kind of creating your own things, you kind of like move into the things that you're interested in. So I'm more interested in real stuff, autobiographical things, supernatural, horror, that kind of stuff versus spandex fare. So I like the indies. But every now and then something comes across my desk and someone says, hey, you got to go check out this. So I was like, okay, let me take a look at this little mama. And it's very well done. Now, I do like Jason Aaron. I've been following his work since Scalped, Southern Bastards, a number of things he's done that I've been a fan of. And I knew, like, well, I figured his take on Thor would be pretty darn good. So I picked it up. And I know of Esad's work. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Esad's work from things that he's done before. And I'm like, oh, I really like his stuff. So I was pleasantly surprised, or not surprised. It was what I expected. Very well done. For the story, this is what's nice. What Jason does in this is he, there's the main bad guy. There's the bad guy, and in some elements, you kind of like figure how it's going to end because comic books, it's a continuous thing, right? So they got to have a reset. You know, you got to have the drama, the climax, and then it kind of resets. Now it resets with some additional, understanding or change in the character to a degree, right? But generally speaking, it's a reset so that then they can tell a new story, right? Every now and then something will happen like Aquaman's arm gets cut off or something like that. But generally, it's like it goes back to one. And this does that, but it's kind of interesting because he does this fun thing with time. We actually get 3 versions of Thor, which is kind of nice because we get that interplay between old man King Thor, current Avenger Thor, and then the young Thor, right? Back in the Viking times and his like tribes there. So we get kind of the interplay of like the foolish, brave-hearty, the kind of, in his prime superhero, and then we get like the old cantankerous guy. And that's kind of fun. So Jason kind of like flips through these different times. We get these different moments. And because this story is about destroying all gods throughout time, you have this villain who kind of is intermingled there with his amorphous little like minions that attack, little shadowy minion guys. And then we have the kind of classic, okay, we have to understand why the villain is the villain, So we have the origin story of the villain, which is a little rote, a little bit, I would say, if I'm going to be very critical. But I feel it's kind of necessary nowadays. Excuse me. Still a little sick. But I'm so dedicated to this channel. And so we have a little bit of that kind of, his origin story. We get some humanity sprinkled in there because we need to understand why. Why would he kill all the gods? Why is he doing all these things? And so we learn that. Then we have our climactic moment. There's a little comedic bits, very sparse, dropped in there. But it's pretty much a serious story. It's about Thor. It's about becoming a god. What does it mean to be a god? He could have really delved into that idea. And I think, I'm sure comics have done this before, and Thor specifically, about praying to gods and them having a connection to the mortals who pray to them, and maybe getting even a power or a renewed strength when you have a worshiper, right? That kind of like dynamic. We don't really dive into too much of that, although there's a little moment with a little girl on an alien planet, which kind of maybe inspires him a bit. So he touches on it, but he doesn't like really drive that home. It's really more about Thor coming into his own, maybe. Each Thor has their own like mini, idea of what they're trying to accomplish or grow. But it's very well done. I mean, it's a comic book. It's a very well done story. I think it's highly regarded as one of the best. And from what I understand, they're even going to make this be the main plot of the new movie. So that kind of inspired me to get it. I'm like, I'll get it because I want to see what that's about. And I liked it. And it was fun to see like the Thor granddaughters and that kind of stuff. So why don't I turn the camera over? Let's look at the art. Let's talk a little bit about how that's done. There's some really neat ideas here. And let's do that, okay? Come on, let's do it. Okay, let's take a look at this. Again, a big fan of the artist here, Esad Rubik. And I'm going to say something. This is a great painting here. Some wash, looks like gouache or something. I did kind of like a reverse engineering the art and kind of seeing the process, and I think I know what he did. And because of that, we have to acknowledge the colorist. And there's a couple of different colorists. We're just going to talk about this first story in this collection here. This was on Amazon. It retails for what, $40? I think I got it for 26, something like that. I'll put a link in the description. The God the Butcher story, main artist, like I said, the penciler, Esad Rubik. But the color artist, Dean White, I think it's Eve or Ive. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Sforsina. Sorry, man. Don't know how to say that right. The color artist has to be acknowledged because there's so much happening in the color. So again, we starting off in these different timelines. The first one is the Young Thor, which is back in the 800 AD period. Now, what Esad did was kind of something that they did. I think his name was Kerry Nord, who worked on Conan for Dark Horse with Kurt Busiek, who did that book, is you do work in pencil. You actually work in pencil and you scan that and you color on top of the pencils. And we see that. Now, he could have used really hard pencils, but these are pencils. Even the hard, he could have used like a 6B or something like that for the really dark stuff. But this is pencil work with coloring layered on top of that. Now, he's probably using either multiplies the color or reverse that, you multiply the pencil down on the color layer. But what it does is it gives it kind of like a very soft, almost painted look to it. And it gives it that defined painted thing that we like. This is him kind of being braggadocio, of course, as the young Thor would be, until he learns his ways. But we'll see here later on, the pencil work is, the coloring is also then done with an artistic flair. So you can kind of see here, that's a pencil line, right? Then you layer on top of colors, and then with the colorist will then also add in some form lines, and he will kind of create a little bit of hatching there to kind of give it some form as well. Again, give it a little bit almost like that brush stroke look, which I thought was nice. So it's not watercolored, it's not painted like what he's doing for the covers, which looks like a mixed media, watercolor and some acrylics here, or gouache. Okay, he's not doing that, but he's kind of simulating that work in the interiors by using pencils and then doing a really, really brilliant job in the coloring. And just if you just look at this panel here, for instance, I mean, I'm just grabbing this out of the sky. Brilliant. You know, he's also using some Photoshop grades, you know, doing a gradient of this green to yellow, and he just kind of puts that gradient right there, right on top of that, multiplies that, and then it kind of gives it that kind of look too, which is nice. Here, this actually does look kind of like a watercolor, that metal, which is really nicely done. It's digital, I bet you. $50. It's really well done though. I mean, Thor's arms. It's all about Thor's arms. Thor is just a guy with big arms, and he does a wonderful job anatomy-wise of doing the arms. I mean, Esau did such a great job of all these different worlds and alien. This is a globe, instead of globe trotting, this is like a universe trotting story where he's going to all these different planets and different things. And each planet has their gods that are being killed, and so he's trying to investigate. Starts off, you know, with the murder, like most stories is a murder case, and he investigates further. But the lighting is so well done, and that all this lighting stuff is all choices that the colorist is making, because the penciler doesn't do much of that. I mean, he'll put some shading in here, things like that to show drop shadows, but a lot of it is the beautiful coloring. And of course the rendering, you got to give it up. His faces look great, but you'll see the hatching here and the kind of shading to give it those kind of gray medium tones that are important in the story, or excuse me, in the form of the figure. Here's a great example of what I'm talking about with the colorist adding a lot of texture. Okay, I'm hoping this video really shows what I'm talking about. Is the texture that's being added to the form. If you look here, not only on the hair, where you can see the kind of highlighted hair strands, but look at the forearm here, and look how the muscles and the round form is being created by the lines that are the colorist is doing. Those are not lines that the artist, the penciler did. That's what the colorist is kind of adding on to, you know, making sure that form has that round shape. And it just looks really good. Look, again, gives it that kind of painted kind of look to it. It's brilliant. These rocks here, all this kind of stuff, almost gives you that vibe of the humanoid stuff that Jimenez did. Jose Jimenez. It's got almost that kind of feel to it. Brilliant stuff. Another thing I have to mention is the lettering is great. There's just some really great sound effects in here and really neat ideas that he uses for that. Positionings, I mean, all the really dynamic positions of the body is great. It really is. It really is pretty fabulous the way he's able to contort the body, put them in really nice positions. The lettering is great. Where the lettering goes off the page is really cool. There's some other little bits here. This stuff here is really nice. I really like when they go to white for the energy and kind of like close out. It's kind of nice too. So there's some neat little digital tricks they're using. This is great. See, if this was all inked, it wouldn't quite have the right effect, but because it's penciled, it kind of like blends in and creates this kind of a neutral or gray medium in the middle, so you have your hard darks. This painted stuff is amazing though, and of course we'd all want that for the interiors, but it just takes too dang long. This is like all digital coloring. This kind of stuff is where I start to get, it's a little bit too digital colored, but it's got kind of a brush stroke, you know, you can see the process kind of look, which is kind of painterly. I guess what we would call it, painterly. Yeah, we could go on here forever and just share stuff, and I don't want to spend all your day looking at these. But this is a wonderful, here's another great page. Now, there's times when the artist is really going very
silhouette, kind of shadowed. But again, this is not full black. You notice this? This is not a full black. This is just, penciled. 4B or 6B penciled in. And that works, though. Again, it's kind of a sketcherly, almost kind of a sketches, look, because you don't have the ink. It's a little bit, perhaps it's a little bit more fluid or a little bit more unfinished. So it gives it a little bit more like movement. I'm kind of grasping on that one, but possibly. But look at this. Very well defined when needed to be. When he wants to be very deliberate. Look at that. Wonderful stuff. Again, great textures here. Wonderful faces. Just and the coloring again. Look at the gradients, the color gradients coming in through. This is just kind of digital stuff. There's another artist. We weren't going to go into him. We're just going to go into this guy for now. But I think it's wonderful. The art is really nice. Again, love the sound effects. This stuff. See, look at this. I mean, he's just penciling that in, and that's just like colored in pencil. And then you throw a color over it, right? You multiply that red color over it, and there you go. All this is like that. So, really well done. Huge fan. I would say go check it out if you can. It's got a great atmosphere and great look. So there's the video. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. And we'll talk to you next time. Thanks. Bye.